Patrick Michael Strange.
And I'm Ulysses E. Campbell. And this is Two Guys and a Comic Book.
Just this museum, if you ever get a chance, check out the Geppies Entertainment Museum. We're
Make the
loving our
time.
time here.
Hey, but you know, we got to go to a break and we've got our first guest that we need to bring on. So you stay right where you are, don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Steve Geppi, and I'd like to welcome you to Geppi's Entertainment Museum. In 1974, I quit my job as a letter carrier at the U.S. Postal Service and opened a small comic book store in the basement of a TV repair shop. Little did I realize that from that humble beginning would grow this incredible pop culture collection you see here today. At the center of that collection is the comic character, the Brownies, Buster Brown, Mickey Mouse, the Lone Ranger, Superman, Barbie. These are just some of the characters who've made a tremendous impact on our individual childhoods while at the same time shaping our collective experience. As you wander through these halls, you will see the history of the country and our changing society reflected in those characters and the media through which they entertained us. Why are these characters so important to us? Perhaps it is their power to distract us. They've brought us relief in times of trouble, like the Great Depression and World War II. Today, they help us escape the pressure and stress of our ordinary, everyday lives. But there's more to it than that. These characters have played a large and largely unrecognized role in our education. Batman comic books helped me to learn to read when I was 5 years old. Thanks, big guy. That experience fostered a lifelong love of reading.
Well, welcome back. We are here at Geppi's Entertainment Museum in Baltimore's Inner Harbor at Camden Station. And Patrick and I are joined for this segment by Andy Hirschberger. Andy is the Associate Curator here at Geppi's. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a place that I work.
Well, this is a fabulous place that you work.
I would love to work here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We have applications up
Well, make sure you get me one of those.
Wow, okay.
I am in awe of
Yes.
everything that you have in here. But we find ourselves in the comic book room. And if you are a comic fan, like me and Patrick are serious comic fans to our hearts,
Oh, yeah.
this is the place you want to be in Geppi's. Not
Yes.
that you don't want to see everything else, but this is where the comic books are.
You'll
And-
go crazy.
Yeah, you know, there was a game that I used to play called Cosmic Wimp Out. My friends told me that I used to draw strength from comic books when we played that game. So I'm just imbued sitting here in the comic book room. So can you tell us a little bit about what you have in here?
Oh, we have quite a lot in the comic book room. We have Superman's first appearance, Action Comics #1.
Yes.
The $1 million comic, the first $1 million comic. The Batman first appearance, Detective 27. We have Spider-Man's first appearance, Amazing Fantasy #15. We have the first appearance of the Iron Man. We have lots of firsts, lots of key issues.
Definitely.
Watchmen #1, the miniseries that was voted by Time as one of the top 100 novels of the 20th century, and the comic book. In Japan, it would probably have been #1, but they have a little bit of a different attitude towards graphic novels, a little bit more, as they say, in Japan, graphic novels are considered art. In America, they are still struggling to be given their proper due.
That is true.
Well, but don't you think that that's changing a little bit? I mean, right now we're enjoying the incredible, unprecedented success of the Avengers, which of course is based on a comic book property.
Well, the Avengers has been a cash cow. It's doing very well. Marvel has managed to create a serialized film, which is very impressive considering serials have been out of favor for years, but now they're coming back. They created their own universe, much like the comic universe of Marvel when it first started. Stan Lee created this interconnected world where you could read Fantastic Four #3 and know that it was affecting Amazing Spider-Man #5, and just the way everything merged. And now they're doing that with movies.
Yes.
And it's really great. And of course, DC has been very successful with the Batman franchise.
Yes.
And we're seeing what they're saying is a golden age for comic fans in the films. Now, I beg to differ because I say there was also a golden age in the 40s with the movie serials, ironically
Quite
bringing us
true.
back to here. They say the Captain Marvel movie series is one of the best ever made. The guy who could do that was practically a martial artist, does all these backflips and all sorts of crazy stuff that Sonny Chiba would later obviously very popular later on.
Now, was that Tom Tyler?
That was Tom Tyler.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
You know, well, I tell you what, I'm a big fan of all those old serials. And Captain Marvel, I'm so delighted that you mentioned that one, because that is one of the, that holds up to this day. If you
Yes.
haven't seen it, young man, you should take a look at it.
I've seen a little bit, but I'm still trying to get acquainted to that material. Awesome stuff. It's just amazing to see that they were able to do that type of special effects during that time.
Well, you know, the flying scenes, as I recall, they used there was a dummy on wires that they would use for that, if I'm not mistaken.
That's generally the way they would have people fly back then. Dummies on wires. You could see it in a lot of movies. The Rocket Man serials, you'll see the guy like
He
this.
looked a little dummier than Captain Marvel did.
It was a lot dummier.
Yeah.
There was also lots of great tricks. Another comic to movie adaptation serialized is Flash Gordon,
Yes.
which is even today.
Granddaddy of them all.
Star Wars Flash Gordon, and they say George Lucas actually wanted to buy that and make that movie instead.
Thank heavens he wasn't able to get the rights.
That's true. That's true.
But that would have been cool to see too, I have
And
to say.
hopefully would have kept Queen as the soundtrack.
You didn't like Queen, did you?
I actually consider that the greatest soundtrack album of all time, and I own it in
Yes.
4 different versions. I own it on tape, LP, and have 2 CDs of it.
Oh,
And I'm
oh,
not
man.
even kidding.
Oh, man.
Heroes hit, I'm going in after him. How's that?
We are having such a wonderful time here, but we're going to go to a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back, and we're here live at Jeppy's Entertainment Museum in downtown Baltimore with Andy, who is just getting ready to tell us what you have in this fabulous museum.
Well, we have all kinds of exciting stuff here. We've got like Action Comics #1. We have the Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller graphic novel that was so instrumental in transforming Batman from the 60s campy, lovable character that's great in its own right back into the Bronson-esque, angst-riddled vigilante that we've come to love.
Yes.
We also have tons of artifacts from Disney. We have the world's first video game, the Winky Dink kit. We have Donald Duck bicycles. We have a myriad of Star Wars figures. We have action toys from the 60s, G.I. Joes, Barbies. The list just is endless.
Oh, yeah.
It's the childhood of us all in one
Yes.
spot.
I'm out of breath just listening to it. And the childhood of us all is absolutely right. I mean, I don't believe that anybody could walk through this place without seeing a ton of stuff that you had when you were a kid. I mean, you know, one of my favorites was the Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was like, I remember that.
we're actually trying to do Rock'em Sock'em Robot Ops coming soon. We
Oh,
might be
really?
doing that for a Hopkins event coming up, bringing Rock'em Sock'em Robots and having people battle it out.
Oh, wow.
Give the winner a couple of prizes.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So,
Now, as I recall, there's also a room where you do rotating exhibits.
we have a temporary exhibit. Right now, we're working on trying to get color forms exhibit in. But if that is not working, in February we have our milestones exhibit. Milestones in African American. We have art. We have a bunch of people coming in and showing how the African American experience influences comics and popular culture. It's going to be a nice companion piece for Baltimore because you know the Reginald Lewis Museum is up the street. There's a lot of history in Baltimore. We have the
Definitely.
Underground Railroad in Baltimore, and it's a way to just show. You know, we have our comic room, which shows one aspect of culture.
Yes.
This is another aspect of culture. It's enriching, exciting to see
Definitely.
where things came from. And so we're looking forward to that, and that'll be in 2013,
Right.
February.
And we have the Baltimore Heroes
Yes,
room right next door,
Baltimore
which
Heroes.
was
Just took it right
amazing
out of
for
my
me to
mouth.
see. I just worked with Cal Ripken Jr. on a commercial about a couple of weeks ago, and seeing his jersey and just some of these other Baltimore heroes. John Waters' Crybaby jacket, I saw up there. It's
Bet you
just
didn't
an
know
amazing
all those
museum.
people from Baltimore.
No, I
did you?
didn't. No, I didn't. It's just, wow, is all I can say. I'm kind of speechless, so if you'll excuse me, I'm just enjoying everything I'm looking at right now.
One of the other things that I think is absolutely fabulous about this museum are the interactive displays. And can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, absolutely. Jeppy's is really interested in education. We don't want, just to show you the fun. We want you to ponder and think about it. And one of the best ways we felt to do this was we have this room filled with comics. And what's
Yes.
the thing when you see stuff behind glass that you most want to do? Touch it.
Yes, yes.
So what we did is we built 3 interactive kiosks in the comic room where you can read 6 different titles that are in the museum.
Wow.
Action Comics #1, you can get your hands on it, you can read it. Superman #1, you can read it. Detective 27, you can read it.
Really?
Fantastic Four #1, you can read it. Amazing Fantasy #15, you can read it. And Donald Duck finds Pilot Gold because as people who are of the comic golden age will tell you, if there was one superhero that beat them all, it was Captain Marvel, and if there was one character that could trump him, it was Donald Duck.
Well, I think I have a few things I want to do after we're done taping. I didn't even know that. That is awesome. I see the buttons where you can turn, I guess, some of these spindles around to see some of these other books.
We have our rotating
Amazing.
cases filled with the CGC comics. One of the things about comics that's very interesting is it's like a lot of antiques. It has an appreciable difference in value depending on
Yes.
the condition.
Yes.
Like, for example, if I have a Ming Dynasty vase with a big crack in it, it's not going to be worth as much as a Ming Dynasty vase that doesn't. Or a comic book is even more detail-oriented because if I have a comic book with a little bit of a staple irregularity, that's a lot different than a comic book that's evenly stable.
Exactly.
And that can make the difference between a few pennies to millions of dollars.
Exactly. If you look on eBay and you were to buy a comic book, you want to make sure that it's in immaculate condition if you're going to be spending such top dollar for that particular issue. I know for myself, I'm always looking and watching out for my family and friends that pour open my long boxes to pull out certain issues. Be careful with that, because just the little slightest crease or edging could throw the value of that book off. But at the same time, I do want them to enjoy the book so that way they can get the same love and appreciation that I do. So it's just amazing looking at this stuff. One of the questions I have, being that I'm of the old hardbound copy and having taken it off the newsstand, and now we've gone into graphic novels and comic books are now in bookstores like Barnes and Noble's, Borders. Now with everybody having tablets in the digital age, I'm curious of your thoughts being the curator here of this museum where people can see this. And one of my fears as a comic book fan is people won't know the joy. And I used to smell the comic book as soon as I would pick it up on Wednesday.
It's a tactile
It's just
experience.
there's such a experience with comic books for me.
I never feel that the comic book as a physical medium will go out of style. People like tablets, they like the immediacy of that, but there's a completely different feel between holding a tablet and reading a book and reading a physical book. Sometimes if it's something you're not that interested in, you'll be like, okay, I've got the new Dean Koontz novel. I don't need to own that in paperback. I would like to skim that on the airplane. But you then say, I've got the new Amazing Fantasy reissue. I don't want to experience that just in town. I want that hand.
Yeah.
I want that
There's something
physical
about it.
medium.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of the things with music that now that CDs have become obsolete, people are discovering that records have suddenly become popular, and people don't want to go to these MP3s completely. They want a physical medium. There's
Yes.
something about having a tangible thing that keep this stuff going. All this stuff is transitory, tastes change, but the comic books will never come. I think even if they transform the way they are now, that would happen. But it's rooted in a lot of pleasantry. And it might be that they just become trade paperbacks. It might be they withstand the digital conversion.
Well, the other thing is, your tablet will never be worth $1 million just because you're looking at Action Comics
Yeah,
on it. So,
that's it.
Unless, unless, of course, you can get little iconic game pieces for an interactive game that you can sell online for millions of dollars. Like, I got the Sword of Superman. It's like, oh, $1 million.
As a writer creator, I love the digital format in that it helps me reach a wider audience. But as a fan, there's just nothing like having that hardbound copy. And my wife even had a discussion. My wife and I had a discussion about collectability. Is that going to erase collectability? Because like you were saying, you just can't have, unless you're giving a MP3 or whatever, or that hard file. You can't. There's nothing like that from a digital comic book. So you know.
We were talking about the value of comics a moment ago.
Yes.
Which is a wonderful segue to this wall over here.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got the Overstreet price guides.
Yes, the Overstreet Price Guide is the definitive price guide for comic books. It's actually a company that is owned as well by our museum's owner and president, Steve.
I wondered that. Okay.
The Overstreet Price Guide, we have original artwork in the covers. This is the book that basically launched the comic book collecting, not craze, but appreciation.
Yes.
It was a forerunner. It saw that people were trading on their youth. They were going back to comics. People were collecting them, and they said, well, you know, we got something here. Let's make a book that shows what things were worth. And to show how effective this book has been in valuing a comic book from the 1930s as opposed to like a movie book from the 30s, which I could go to the store and buy for probably $10. Action Comics was selling for less than $1,000 when that book first debuted, and now it's over 1 million listing. So this is a thing that basically got people looking at comics, investigating comics, and the guy who put it together, Bob Overstreet, was such a fan, and he created this thing that said, look, comics are worth more than just, comics are worth money. But also, because they're worth money, they made people look at them who wouldn't normally look at them, and then they were like, wait a minute, they're worth money, but they're not worth money in the sense of their currency. They're also worth money in the sense that they're entertainment.
Yes.
It's a value. It's like you read a Action Comics #1. It's not just good because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make money from this. It's good because you read it, and it's got this wealth of excitement. You have the superheroes, you have Superman, or if you're reading Marvel, you have those unique changes, the way that some comic companies tend to lighten up over the years or darken up with their themes, the way things become more complex, and sometimes sub-stories become lighter or more youthful, trying to hit all kinds of markets, the way that the whole medium has changed, and how just this incredible value. And the thing that's interesting is they say there are two American art forms, jazz and comic books. And we all talk about manga, and we all love manga, because I have to say, if there's one culture right now that is really delivering for my aesthetic appreciation, and I'm just speaking on my own terms, very good narratives. I'm very appreciative of the Japanese and the Asian markets, particularly mangas, because these are stories that are complex and deal with all kinds of interesting things. And in fact, manga became popular because of World War II. GIs were bringing comics over at the time, and Japan saw these books and immediately responded to them and created their own.
Wow.
And I mean, the cross-pollination is wonderful because there's a different cultures are all different, and there's a different way of living one's life in one place than there is in another. So when you see a story format that is from where you grew up, and then you see it as relayed back to you from another culture, like whether you go and see Speed Racer as an anime, or even to make it more like if you go and see The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's an Italian reimagining of an American Western. And it's that there's little differences that make something that's so familiar seem fresh.
Being former military, I can definitely stress how big comics were for me. As both kid, being a military brat and being in the military myself. When you're traveling so much, you're having to make new friends. So my friend were comic books. They were the constant. If I was in this place and I would not see that friend anymore, and I'd go to this other place, I would see a comic book on there. Oh, here's the next Adventures of Superman, and especially with manga as well. I'm a little bit younger than you guys, and how manga has really started to step up along with anime. How much they are influencing people of my generation. They're that constant. When you're going from one place to place, you can always count on the next issue of Superman or Dragon Ball Z.
And your old friend will be there waiting.
They'll be there waiting for you.
And on top of that, it not only creates you obviously have a friend, but you have a touchstone in which to make new friends.
Oh yeah.
Indeed.
It's like I pick up a copy of MPD Psycho, And I start reading it, and I say, wow, this is great. And I type a review on Amazon.com, and then somebody writes back and says, I'm a big Takashi Miike fan. I read the comic as well. I thought these were differences. I read Takashi Miike too. I like him too. And this is, that's not a comic book artist, but it's an artist or director who pulls a lot of his
Definitely.
content.
One of my pleasures has been to have come through the museum and tape a show for my program, Fantastic Forum.
That was a very good show.
Well, thank you. That was a special. It deviated from the typical thing that we do, which is primarily a panel discussion. We have interviews and features. So I would love to be able to come back or to get you as a guest on the show.
Well, we'd love to have you. I'd love to be on the show.
Yeah, we do panel discussion. I do interviews. In fact, I've gotten such notables as Neil Adams, Howard Chaykin, Frank Cho we've had on the show, Matt Wagner, Jim Shooter. In fact, did a really good interview with him about creators' rights, which is a passion of mine.
Wow,
So,
yes.
I try to get a lot of people who are relevant in the comics industry with something to say, because we talk about everything from frivolous stuff like, who's stronger, Superman or the Hulk, to, serious issues like the creators' rights sort of thing. And also, Patrick is an incredible creator, comic artist, writer, and does a show of his own, at least one.
Yeah, I used to write and publish comic books. Used to attend Baltimore Comic Con, and I now have taken a lot of my filmmaking into working on a comic book show, pop culture show, much like the amazing Fantastic Forum, which I strongly suggest you all check out, called Bam Kapow, with my fellow hosts Toya Chisholm, Troy Soul Edler, and LD White, and we're produced by the great C. Lorenzo Johnson, another fellow comics creator. We do much of the same that Fantastic Forum does, and would love to take our show here. This is an amazing museum, and
I would love to
I'm very
have you.
appreciative that you allowed us to come and check this place out.
Well, we're very happy that we have two enthusiastic fans to come to this museum. I mean, we appreciate that somebody, not just somebody, two individuals that really care about these materials would come in and are excited about it, because that tells us that we're doing our job.
Yeah.
If somebody comes in, it's like, it's great if you know, it's great if you don't know, but it's better if we get somebody that loves this stuff, because if we can put a smile on their face, we're doing it right.
Well, you've done it. I have a permanent one today. It's going to be hard to erase this.
Well, that just sort of brings me to something, though, because the collector's market we were talking about a little bit earlier, and one thing that I've noticed is you find a lot of people who don't necessarily know comics, but they take a very speculative view of it. And so every time there's a new #1, in fact, I remember at the store where I shop in Washington, D.C., when Obama was elected, there was a Spider-Man issue, and they went through like 6 printings. And people are snapping these things up, and I had to say, hey, that's never going to be worth anything, because they've done 6 printings already. It's the relative scarcity of these things. I mean, Action Comics #1 wouldn't be worth anything but for the fact that everybody's mother threw all of them out, except for the ones that were squirreled away in somebody's attic somewhere.
Which is why Jeppy's Entertainment Museum promotes comic destruction by mothers. We've actually asked the mothers of America to secretly steal into their children's basements, grab all of their comics, and incinerate them. Please don't try to throw them in the water, do something, because we can still sell water-damaged comics. Don't remove them from the covers, don't do any small tears, damage, destroy them completely. And that will bring my comic collection.
Increase the value overnight, no doubt.
We're joking, of course.
No, please.
I have to say, I really love this. With me having a little girl who's, and I'm introducing her to comics. She's a big Wonder Woman fan, by the way. I love how, when I eventually take her here, how you really do show the evolution of comic books. How in this room alone, how you had it from the old newspaper clippings into big little books. And then from bronze, gold, modern, silver, and then just even taking it into the other rooms, how the promotional tie-in started to occur, and comics started reaching a wider audience. And the historical nature that you have to go along with it. And earlier you said in one of the other segments that you can look at Detective Comics 27 or Amazing Comics, Action Comics 1, First Appearance of Superman. This is just amazing, and anybody, if you're in Baltimore, I definitely strongly suggest you check out this museum. and take it all in, because if you're a comics fan, you're gonna go crazy like me and be speechless and go bananas and talk on and just blah. Mom, Dad, honey, baby, did you see that? Or my friend, man, you gotta check this out. Look at this. Like, I'm sitting next to the first appearance of Hellboy. I'm sitting next to just such key books, and it's just amazing. I wish I had your job.
We're having so much fun, but we have to go to a break. So you stay right where you are, and we'll be right back.
I had dreamed of creating this museum for almost 30 years, but where to build it? When I toured Camden Station for the first time in 2003, I realized I had finally found the home these characters so richly deserved. Abraham Lincoln passed through this building 4 times. When Babe Ruth left his boyhood home of Baltimore to play for the Boston Red Sox, he took a train from this very station. Today, the first floor houses Sports Legends at Camden Yards, a museum which chronicles the history of Maryland sports. If there is a more appropriate place to display the history of pop culture in America, I can't think of it. I've been called Baltimore's biggest cheerleader. Guilty as charged. Heck, I even bought the City magazine. I was born and raised in Little Italy, an ethnic neighborhood just across the Inner Harbor from here. I love this city and all of its spectacular attractions. From the National Aquarium and the Science Center, to the Walters Art Gallery and Museum of African American History and Culture, to the restaurants of Fells Point and Little Italy, Baltimore has something for everyone. I urge you to visit all of those places and experience everything this magnificent city has to offer. But first, I'd like you to take a trip with me in my time machine to discover or revisit all the wonderful characters, friends I call them, that have shaped our popular culture. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I had that when I was a kid. I do it all the time.
We're back, and we've been having such a good time here with Andy at Jeppy's Entertainment Museum. Andy, do you have any last thoughts?
Well, I'd just like to invite everybody in the viewing audience to come to our museum whenever you get a chance. We're located at 301 West Camden Street in Camden Yards, right by the ballpark. We are on the 2nd floor of Camden Station, a historic train station, right next to 2 light rail stops, the Camden Station and the Camden Yard stop. Oh, I'm sorry, the Convention Center and the Camden Yard stop. You can come to us on the 2nd floor, south side entrance. We're open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 6. And we have a special on Thursdays. We're half price. We're also great to take in during an O's game because the O's this year are top notch. So come in and do a double header, Jeppy's and the O's. Have a great time.
What's your web address?
Our web address is www.jeppysmuseum.com. And you can find it coming up on our website and our closings and our special events. We have a Pirate and Princess event coming June 3rd that is already got over 50 people signed up for it, so we're expecting a sellout crowd, but check online because there might be tickets left.
Is there a Facebook page?
There is a Facebook page. We're just Facebook, Jeppy's Entertainment Museum. You can find us anytime. We post pictures of interesting things in the museum. Whatever we decide has an ironic sensibility to it. We've got that like holier than thou hipness on our Facebook page.
Well, that's because it's such a hip and happening place.
Oh, yeah.
Andy, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, no problem.
And
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for today. I'm Ulysses Campbell.
I'm Patrick Michael Strange.
And I'm Andy Hirschberger, Associate Curator, Registrar of Jeppy's Entertainment Museum.
And we'll see you next time.